Fear is often a mile wide, but only an inch deep. Fear often seems very overwhelming and intimidating, but when you step into it intentionally, a lot of times it's not as bad as it seemed. And this is often because fear, as an emotional reaction, triggers a lot of our fight or flight response, our brain's natural tendency to try to keep us safe and alive. That is the number one job of your brain, is to keep you safe and alive. And emotions are, strong emotions can override a lot of logic and reason that your brain is capable of. But that fight or flight response is so powerful. Fear can often overwhelm those other capabilities. I want you to imagine something that's legitimately fear-driven, like walking through the woods and you end up face to face with a bear. That sucks. Even if it's a relatively tame bear or one like a younger bear, there may not be, there's always danger with a bear. But even in a situation where, maybe you see it from a distance, whatever the situation is, just imagine you come across a bear in the woods and you feel fear, legitimate fear. The trick with fear is it's all about your perception, and it's all about your natural reaction. The problem with fear is there's only one fear response in the brain. The only thing that matters is the intensity of that fear response. So you take that same fear, because there's only one fear response, and you put somebody in the front of a crowd who has a fear of public speaking. The emotional, physical response is the same. I feel fear, and then I feel all this adrenaline and cortisol rushing through my body, and the muscle tension and the worry that comes with it. Because what are people really fearful in public speaking? I don't want to be judged. I want to look like an idiot. I don't want to feel insecure. When you have an emotional and a physical response associated with fear, it's only a matter of intensity. And that's where people get stuck with some simple things like public speaking. And they associate it with this massive danger, because that's the only thing your brain has to go to. We talk a lot about reframing is important because your emotions are driven by your thoughts. So if you're having a fear response associated with something that shouldn't be fearful, like public speaking, what are you telling yourself? What are you saying to yourself? In the case of being face to face with a bear in the woods, you're probably thinking, holy shit, I hope this thing doesn't eat me. Legitimate fear response. If you're having a fear response associated with standing in front of a crowd of people and talking, you're probably saying something like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Look at all these people looking at me. I don't want to come off as not knowing what I'm talking about. What if I stumble over my words? Right? See the difference. But your body doesn't know the difference between what is real and what you tell it is real. And what you're telling it is, I'm afraid. The best way to handle that situation is to reframe your thinking and get yourself to say something different. This video isn't about reframing. It's just about the idea that fear is like a shallow lake. It's a mile wide, but only an inch deep. And when you step into, you realize how shallow it really is. And then you realize you could do something about it. My first few years of the Air Force, I was in Utah, about 45 minutes north of Salt Lake City. Well, the Salt Lake is huge. Running from north to south, east to west, it's massive. But what a lot of people don't realize is, first of all, it's really not that deep in most places. You could step into the lake and walk out for a long time and barely reach waist level. It's not that deep. But also, it's a salt lake. It's so thick with salt, you can't really sink. People will lay in it and it's like laying on a bed of salt. And so it seems like this massive body of water, but it's not that intimidating. And so it really comes down to that saying, perception is reality. That is an effective statement because the way that you think about things drives the way that you feel emotionally and physically, and it becomes your reality. You can essentially talk yourself into anything you want. You can talk yourself into it, and it becomes your perceived reality, whether other people are going to accept it, whether it just makes you seem crazy to other people, whether you care or not. You can talk yourself into anything, including happiness, including fear, including things like anxiety and depression. Not talking clinical, but even that, if you go to most therapists and most people who talk about depression, they talk about being sad, right? There's clinical levels and clinical deviations clinical delineations on different types of mood disorders. Depression isn't actually a category. There's these mood disorders and different ones, and you have to have certain things associated. You have to have certain behaviors associated for them to classify you to have these certain mood disorders. So when people often say depression, they're talking about it. I feel sad and I don't know what to do about it. I feel unmotivated and I don't know what to do about it. Even if you go into a therapist, a licensed therapist who has the capability to classify you into a mood disorder, most of the time they're going to start with the simplest stuff first, unless it is a significantly serious case where you need more clear and direct intervention. A lot of times they're going to use things like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is, what are you thinking? What is it causing you to feel? What is it causing you to do? And how can we work that backwards so you can do things that help you feel better and think things that help you feel better? Acceptance commitment theory is the same thing. What can I get you to do, and how can I get you to think about it differently? That's the majority of therapy that's applied to people when it comes to, I don't feel good, I'm not thinking right, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm not motivated, things just aren't clicking for me anymore. Like those types of common thinking patterns and reactions to life in general. I'm not satisfied with my life. Okay, well, what can we get you to do so you can think differently about your life? This idea of fear is an inch deep and a mile wide. Because when you step into fear, you realize whatever it is, you're likely doing it to yourself. How many things do you face? And this is generally speaking. Most people, generally speaking, don't face very much danger in their life. There are dangerous things you do. I'm driving right now and I'm talking. I'm not messing with my phone. I set it up and now I'm driving, and so I've minimized the danger. Do I face danger? I'm driving 70 miles an hour on the highway and there's semis and other cars around me, yes, it's dangerous, but it's inherent to the job. And so I've accepted that risk, and I'm not allowing myself to feel fear because I've accepted the risk, and honestly, the risk is minimal. As long as everybody's driving and doing their job, you know, I could talk myself in anything. If I go for a walk with my wife or my kids, and I'm constantly on guard, fearful of, oh my gosh, what if? And I what if myself into a frenzy. But really, what am I talking about? Let's look left and right to make sure there's no cars coming, and then let's cross the street. But if I'm constantly afraid of my kids doing something or getting hit by a car or a dog or, all these what ifs that are going on, you're going to talk yourself into a deeper state of fear or anxiety or something that is going to take your attention, and it's going to affect your ability to perform whatever it is that you want to do. Fear is not something to be upset about. If you feel fear, ask yourself, is it legitimate fear? Or am I talking myself into a fear response that is completely unnecessary? So your perception is your reality. But also, it's your ability to act that is going to change a lot of these things. Thinking patterns matter, but so does behavior. Like the example of the lake. I'm scared of the water. Why? It's only 2 feet deep or 3 feet deep. What do you have to fear about that? If you fear public speaking, right? Keep this simple. There's a lot of things that you could fear unnecessarily. If you fear public speaking, what's the solution? Well, the solution is to practice things that allow you to get better at public speaking. And a lot of times that's the topic that you're talking about. Get better with your knowledge level of the topic that you want to talk about. But then also change your thinking patterns so you're not freaking yourself out and causing yourself to have muscle tension and brain fog. Go a step further. Do your breathing techniques. Breathing techniques are going to allow you to minimize the effects of muscle tension and brain fog. Right? All these things partner together. So you have actions you can take, behaviors that you can enact that are going to help you move through fear. And then the third thing would be, I got it, you're afraid. You feel fear. I don't want to say you are afraid. You feel fear, right? There's a difference there. It seems minor, but don't own things that don't belong to you. Right? It's like people say, I have anxiety. No, you don't. You feel anxious. There's a difference. Don't own things that don't belong to you. Don't talk yourself into being something when all you're doing is feeling because you're thinking something. You're thinking yourself into anxiety. That's the majority of people. So don't say you are afraid, say you feel afraid, and then decide you want to think and do things differently. And that's the courage, this is the third thing, the courage to do it anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear, right? Courage is the willingness to do something even though you feel fear. You feel fearful. Whether it's a bear in the woods and you have to do something anyway, so you do you pick up a stick and you make, growling sounds and make yourself look big. Right? That's what you're supposed to do when you run into a bear in the woods, that you're supposed to make big noises and try to scare the bear. Make yourself look bigger than you really are. Or you feel fear because you're getting ready to stand in front of a crowd of people and talk, whether it's in a classroom or at work, right? It could be 5 people, it could be 500 people. If you talk yourself into fear, you're going to feel fear. But even if you have the courage to do it and talk to yourself in a way that minimizes that fear, you still might feel fear. It's going to happen. You're still going to feel the nervousness and the anxiety associated with judgment and what if I mess up. You can minimize those, you're probably still going to feel it. You need to do those things anyway. There's a lot of jobs out there, a lot of things that you can do that have legitimate danger. But it's inherent to the performance environment. You can minimize some of the things that are associated with the danger, and then it will have an effect on your ability to do the thing anyway, including the fear. That's courage. So when we talk about fear being an inch deep but a mile wide, your perception is your reality. There were 3 things. Perception is reality. Your ability to act is going to change the way that you think and feel, and then the way that you think, the thinking patterns, are going to minimize your ability, or minimize your feelings, and then you're going to have the courage to do it anyway. So just think about what you might be fearful of and why. What is it that you're feeling? What are you thinking that's causing you to feel that way? And then what can you do about it through, thought redirection, mental skills and physical skills to minimize the intense physical reactions, and then just do it anyway. Right? Very few people are ever going to get to that point where they never feel fear. They never feel anxious about something. If you feel anxious about something, there's probably a sense of you really, really care about that thing. And the best thing for you to do is just do it anyway, including the fear. Get better at what you're trying to accomplish that makes you fearful, and figure out what you need to do to be successful down the road. Easier said than done, I got it. Don't confuse simple with easy. A lot of things that we're talking about are simple. They are not necessarily easy though. So give yourself some credit, give yourself some grace, do your best, and go crush it.